if you're in the market for something futuristic, electric, practical, has a lot of range, and it drives itself. Welcome everybody to the 2023 Hyundai Ioniq 6. Front end of the Ioniq 6 is extremely curvy and I love the way this looks. However, I prefer its sibling, the Ioniq 5's look a bit better. The boxy looks suits my taste a bit better. But this is not ugly in any way. It's very handsome, very futuristic, cuts and creases all around. I love the amber DRLs that this car has. Really makes it stand out on the road. You know, the road is full of cars with yellow DRLs, white DRLs. These amber DRLs make it stand out. They look so good. You've got some cuts and creases in the bumpers, and you've got some vents in the bumper as well, which open up to cool the batteries. Personally, that's one of the coolest things I've seen in recent cars. BMWs have it with the active grille. This is something similar, and it's so cool that Hyundai has incorporated it so beautifully in the front end of the Ioniq 6. When you come to the side, you can see the coupe-like roofline. This has a fastback GT look, which looks very unique. Not many cars have this kind of sloping roofline, and it does not affect the headroom too much for the rear passengers. So it's a very functional design. Normally, these kind of designs eat into the headroom for taller passengers. Not so the case for the Ioniq 6, which makes me appreciate the design element even more. You've got some cuts and creases. It looks so good. You've got this beautiful 20-inch wheels. These are optionals, but I think this is an option that I would go for it any day of the week. It looks so good. It's diamond cut and it completes the side profile so good. You've got flush door handles. When you do unlock the car, the handles come out, which remind you that you are probably entering a Lambo or some super premium car. It's so cool that, you know, Hyundai has incorporated this little features here and there to remind you that this is one of their best work. The rear of the Ioniq 6 is very futuristic, and Hyundai has made sure that they want to make this car stand out on the road and look very unique. Maybe their efforts have paid off. I feel like no other car looks like this. The fastback roof slopes into the rear. What looks like you have two spoilers, a gloss black one and a lift spoiler. This one has an integrated taillight into it. This also reminds you a bit of the older Ford Escort Cosworth RSS, or maybe even like a Porsche 930 Turbo. It's very unique and it might not be to everyone's taste. I personally like it. It's grown on me. I didn't like it at first, but I feel like now looking at the car every day, it's grown on me. You've got the nice LED bar taillight, which looks very, very good. And you've got a bit sort of like a diffuser look to break, again, the monotony of the rear. So it's like, you know, contrasting with the gray and the black. Looks different. I'm not a big fan of that big gloss back part, but it looks okay. I'm sure there are people who really like it. What can I say? Hyundai has gone to great lengths to make sure this car is different and unique, and I think it's worked in their favor. I'm now inside the Ioniq 6, and you can see it's a very bright place to be. It's got a lot of whites and grays, not a lot of blacks, which I personally like. The only gloss black in the whole interior is on the steering wheel, and that's so good because gloss black can be really painful to, you know, upkeep with dusts and scratches. So this is the only part of the car that has gloss black. Everything else is this very sustainable, recyclable material on the dashboard, on the seats. These look like leather, but they're not. It's so good. Hyundai is showing their intent about being serious in the green car, the EV space. You've got power window switches in the middle and the lock buttons, which I'm not a fan of. I like them on the door, but Hyundai is trying to do something different. You have a two-spoke steering, again, which reminds me of cars of yesteryears. Took a while to get used to, but now it's pretty cool because I can actually drive like an old person, you know, holding the bottom. Always wanted to do that. Now I can do it legally. You do have a drive mode button, which reminds you of Porsches. Porsches have the knob. This is a button, but it looks just like that, and it works for me. Honestly, I didn't expect to see that in a Hyundai. You have the gear lever, knob, whatever you can call it, behind the steering. It might foul with your knee a bit, but if you decide to keep your knee in a strategic way, you can get away with it. It feels very tactile and you can switch through knobs. It takes a bit of getting wild to, because D is like you have to flick it up, R you have to flick it down. Takes a while to get used to, but once you do, it's intuitive. You have the window wipers which feel everything good, and the whole feel of it is so premium. You have lots of storage as well, so it's like it feels premium, and Hyundai has killed the packaging. You have cup holder storage, you open this, you have some more storage, you have storage here on the doors, and then you have storage here, and then you have a huge storage under the center console, which is so practical. Hyundai has found the perfect blend of design and practicality. You do have some touch AC controls, which can be a bit distracting to change while driving, but you don't change that much per se, so it's okay. Again, what can I say? The screen looks very good. You've got the nav screen, the gauges, which looks so good. The responsive is so good. The resolution is so good. I can't really fault anything. It's such a great place to sit inside and drive around. The seats are so comfortable. You have a lot of adjustments: lumbar, upper back, lower back, front and back, up and down. It's so good. You can find your perfect driving position in no time. I can spend a lot of hours in here, and I have so, because this car is such a good place to be inside. I'm now in the rear of the Ioniq 6, and as you can see, space is really not an issue at all. The seats are a bit more behind than what I would usually have, and I still can barely touch it. There's not enough space to tuck in your feet under the seat because of the batteries. The batteries are under the floor. The floor is a bit raised, so it's not enough to put your feet under the seat. But then there's so much legroom that you really don't need to stretch that far to tuck your feet in. Under thigh support is good. The backrest incline is so good. It's such a great place to be, and because of this whole white and gray theme, it feels very airy. Couple that with the big windows, there's always light inside. What could have been a bit better is the addition of a panoramic sunroof. Since the Ioniq 5 gets it, this one just has a small sunroof for the front passengers. Not a deal breaker, but a good to have for sure. You have an armrest with cup holders in the middle, and it's a flat floor, so the third passenger is equally welcome because they have a headrest as well. You have AC vents and Type-C ports in the back. You do have seat back pockets to put your stuff. You have a small storage on the door, under the door, and then inside the door as well. It's so practical. I don't know how Hyundai has nailed the packaging to be so fine. The boot is pretty big. When you open the boot, it has that notchback style, so when you open the boot, it has a lot of space. The opening is pretty weirdly shaped, so if you can navigate that, the boot itself is pretty deep, so you can put in a lot of stuff. You also have a frunk, like the front boot when you open the hood, but it can perhaps take a small packet of chips, maybe your charging wires. That's it. I don't know why they incorporated that. Just because they had to, they made some space. But again, it's not that much of a deal breaker because the rear boot is actually very, very spacious. Again, it's so well thought, and Hyundai has killed it with the space and the packaging inside the Ioniq 6. I'm now behind the wheel of the Ioniq 6. Let's get the numbers out of the way. This has a 234 kilowatts electric motor mated to a 77 kilowatts per hour battery. It's the dual motor setup. You can get a single motor setup, it's cheaper, but that's only available with rear wheel drive. This is available as rear wheel drive and all wheel drive. This is the all-wheel drive one. So claimed range is about 500 kilometers. Real world is about 460, 470, which is actually pretty good. I've been charging it and I've just been driving it, and this thing is not running out of range, which is such a boon to have when you are driving an electric car. The range anxiety is not as much prevalent as it is compared to other cars. It's extremely comfortable to drive, extremely silent because it's an electric car. There's instant torque available at your right foot disposal at all times. Overtaking or just cruising is so easy. There are different drive modes. There is regenerative braking, which you can adjust through the paddles. There's 3 levels, and then if you go one higher, it goes into 1 pedal drive, which is extremely useful, and it comes to a complete halt in city traffic, which is again extremely useful, extremely nice to have, because not all electric cars that I've driven have the proper 1 pedal drive. Like, it only works up to like 10 kph, and below that you still have to brake. This comes to a complete halt, which is again very commendable by Hyundai to incorporate all these key electric car features into this particular Ioniq 6. This has the optional 20-inch wheel, so that drops the range a bit more, so it hampers the range by about 20 or 25 kilometers, which is not too much because the wheels actually look really good. But they do make the ride a bit stiff, but it's very manageable. I'm sure with smaller wheels, this is even much more comfortable for sure. But this is still not bad. The 20-inch wheels soak the bumps really well. The sidewall is a bit less, but it's really comfortable, especially on smooth tarmac like this. It's impeccable. On broken roads, you do have to navigate them a bit because you don't want your tire to be damaged. But again, otherwise, it's just really comfortable, really serene, really peaceful, and you can really cruise. And that's the best part about this car. The motors and the battery that I mentioned give about combined 320 horsepower, so you can cruise like this. And if you do change the drive modes through the steering wheel, which literally reminds you of a Porsche, drive modes into normal and then sport, and you just get pushed hard into your seat, and you are doing crazy speeds in no time. That's the beauty about this car. It can cruise and you can stab and shoot, literally in corners or in straights. You can just make a gun for it, and that's what I really like. The dual personality, everything this car has with the range and everything, it's so practical, and one of the better daily cars, if I must say. You can drive it in traffic, you can, fly on the highway if you want. And if you come to some corners like how I just have come, you'll realize that the steering feel is also pretty good, and you can have a lot of fun in the corners as well. Wow, what a champion product Hyundai has made. Honestly, I've been dying to drive this Ioniq series cars, the Ioniq 5 and the 6. Finally got my hands on one, and I am not disappointed. What a beautiful package this is to drive. In conclusion then, the 2023 Hyundai Ioniq 6. Well, it's got a lot of things going for it. It looks really futuristic, it drives really well, it's extremely spacious, it's got all the tech and the features you could ever ask for. It's got a lot of range, and that's the biggest caveat, right, for electric cars, the range. This has it sorted, so then you can just judge it like any other car. And when it comes to that, it's a pretty good one. You can't really fault this car for anything at all. Hyundai wanted to make the electric car sporty, cool, and aspirational. I think they have definitely pulled it off with the Ioniq 6. At around $65,000 Canadian for this Ioniq 6, the top of the line Ultimate with the optional 20-inch rims, I think it's pretty good value compared to what this car offers to its competitors. Hyundai has killed it out of the park, and I really enjoyed my stint with the Ioniq 6.